The idea of showcasing people with extreme physical deformities and rare abnormalities, what we now call a freak show, has been around for centuries. But it wasn't until the 1800s that these shows truly exploded in popularity, becoming the traveling spectacles we recognize today. They rolled into towns under giant provocative banners, promising twisted glimpses of nature gone wrong. And in today's video, we look at the 15 scariest circus freaks that actually existed. Let's begin this list with number 15, Gargantua. In 1938, the Ringling Brothers Circus was barely hanging on until Gargantua arrived. Originally named Buddy, he'd been captured from the wild and renamed after the legendary giant from Rabelais' stories. That name, that image, became the entire brand. Posters described him as the world's most terrifying living creature. Trainers claimed he hated humans, but in reality, none of it was true. But it sold tickets. His presence alone filled the tent. He didn't perform like a human. He didn't follow cues. They didn't make him dance or wear a hat. He sat behind bars, and that was enough. The circus even arranged a fake wedding with a lady gorilla just to drive up attention. He never looked at her. Gargantua wasn't a villain, and he wasn't a spectacle. He was a captive gorilla used to save a hanging business. The way people looked at him said more about the crowd than it did about him. The posters showed anger. What he carried was silence. Number 14, Montana's Petrified Man. In 1897, Tom Dunbar claimed he found a petrified human body in the Missouri River near Fort Benton, Montana. The specimen was 5 feet 10 inches tall, weighed over 360 pounds, and appeared stone hard. He later sold it to businessman A.W. Miles, who exhibited it around Montana, billing it as the fossilized remains of Thomas Francis Meagher, who was an Irish revolutionary and territorial governor. Despite holes in the fake story, including a bullet wound that turned into an arrow wound, audiences paid 25 cents a look. Revenue soared. Even liver-eaten Johnston identified it as someone else entirely. Historians later called it a hoax, with similarities to the Cardiff giant and other 19th century petrified man scams. Some thought it was carved, others thought it was made of adipocere, a wax-like substance formed from decaying fat. No scientific study confirmed anything. The man vanished from public view after World War I. No one on Earth knows where it went. The legend is still louder than the facts. Number 13, Jack Dracula. Martin Semnak stopped using his birth name the moment he began tattooing his face. In the 1950s, that choice wasn't common. It was a rejection of everything considered acceptable. He went by Jack Dracula and covered his body with over 400 tattoos, starting with his arms, then neck, chest, and face. This wasn't a costume. This was commitment. He appeared in sideshows at Coney Island, Hubert's Museum, Palisades Park, and with Ringling Brothers. Everywhere he went, people stared. Some were drawn in, others turned away. Jack didn't care. He'd already made peace with being seen differently. He showed up, said little, and stood there. In a time when tattoos could get you banned from restaurants or turned away from jobs, he walked in with a full-face canvas. His name started to show up in underground films, tattoo circles, and sailor lore. In 2011, he was inducted into the Sideshow Hall of Fame. He didn't need validation, but it came anyway. Number 12, the Cardiff Giant. In 1869, workers digging a well in Cardiff, New York, unearthed a 10-foot stone man. Some believed it was a petrified biblical giant. Others weren't convinced. Its creator, George Hull, later admitted it was a prank. Hull had the statue carved from gypsum and secretly buried it after a heated argument with a preacher about the literal truth of Genesis. The joke backfired. People believed it. Hull profited by charging admission. P.T. Barnum offered $60,000 to lease it. Denied, he carved a duplicate and billed it as the real one. Lawsuits followed. The original passed through private hands before ending up at the Farmers Museum in Cooperstown, New York. Even after the hoax was exposed, people still lined up to see it. Its fame outlived the lie. Hull's prank became one of the most infamous frauds in sideshow history. A fake, well-established, it proved one thing. Sometimes the story people want to believe is more powerful than the truth. Number 11. The Elephant-Skinned Man. Ralph Albert Kruner was born in Montpellier in 1888 and spent his career behind a fabricated story. He told audiences that his mother had witnessed a deadly elephant stampede while pregnant, and the shock had marked her unborn child. It was fiction, borrowed from Joseph Merrick's story, but it made him famous. Ralph toured for more than 30 years as the Elephant-Skinned Man. His condition wasn't common ichthyosis, but something rarer, possibly an early case of epidermodysplasia verruciformis, a disorder that later drew attention in Indonesia through Deddy Koswara, the Tree Man. Kruner managed the thickened skin through constant soaking, trimming, and ointment treatment. He endured the discomfort quietly, staying on the road long after most would have stopped. A record from Tampa, Florida in 1952 lists a death under his name. Whether it was truly him remains uncertain. His story, half invention and half endurance, ended without applause. Just another performer who lived longer in myth than memory. Number 10. Joseph Borolaski. Joseph was born in 1739 in what is now Ukraine. He stood 2 feet tall and lived to be 98. His family was poor, and after his father died, a noblewoman took him in. She taught him manners, music, and how to carry himself with dignity. He traveled with her across Europe and was later introduced into high society, meeting Marie Theresa of Austria, who gave him a diamond ring, and the exiled Polish king, who gave him a pension. Joseph married, had a daughter, and moved to England, where he wrote memoirs and performed regularly. He met kings, artists, and performers, including one giant over 8 feet tall. Joseph noted how easily he fit into the man's palm. Unlike others his size, Joseph wasn't treated like a sideshow act. He was respected, well-dressed, and educated. His performances weren't based on shock. They were built on culture and presence. He wasn't a curiosity. He was simply a man who lived well in a small frame. Number 9. The White Negress. Amelia Newsham was born in Jamaica to enslaved African parents and carried albinism that left her skin pale and her hair white. As a child, she was sent to London as a gift and later sold to showman Thomas Hall, who exhibited her in the 1790s as the White Negress. At his house of curiosities, visitors paid $1 to stare while she recited verses about her white wool and African roots. Souvenir coins stamped with her face turned her identity into commerce. But Amelia's story didn't end there. She gained freedom, married an Englishman, and raised 6 children. She continued performing, not as property, but on her own terms. Her life intersected race, science, and exploitation in a way London had never seen. She wasn't silent about her condition. She used it to speak, to own what others tried to define. By the 1820s, she was still performing, not as a specimen, but as a survivor who refused to disappear. Now let's move to Number 8. Sandy Allen. Sandy Allen stood 7 feet 7 1/4 inches tall, officially recognized as the tallest woman in the world. Born in Indiana in 1955, her height was caused by a pituitary tumor that flooded her body with growth hormone. By high school, she was over 6 feet tall. She eventually underwent surgery to stop the excessive growth, but the damage was permanent. Sandy became a public figure in the 1970s, appearing in newspapers, television shows, and medical documentaries. She worked as a stenographer, wore size 21 shoes, and often joked about being able to change light bulbs without a ladder. During a trip to Australia, she appeared at a press conference, standing beside reporters nearly 2 feet shorter. Despite the attention, Sandy remained private and grounded. She published an autobiography titled "Cast a Giant Shadow." She never capitalized on her condition through sideshows. Her presence was enough. Sandy died in 2008 at age 53, remembered with quiet respect. But not everyone is that lucky. Number 7. Little Man of Nuremberg. Matthias Buchinger was born in 1674 near Nuremberg, standing under 13 inches tall and missing hands, feet, and thighs. It didn't matter. He became a skilled musician, calligrapher, and magician. Using only small arm stumps, he played multiple instruments, flute, dulcimer, trumpet, and performed card tricks that fooled professionals. He drew lifelike portraits, engraved family trees, and practiced micrography, tiny letters forming entire texts inside detailed designs. His 10 Commandments drawing is made of script almost too small to see. He married 4 times, fathered at least 14 children, and traveled across Europe, performing for nobles and kings. His work was signed on vellum, in ornate loops and fine lines, often on the spot. He settled in Ireland and died in 1739. Posters sold his image, but the real draw was ability. Buchinger didn't need pity or illusion. He left behind work that spoke for itself, made with no hands, no fingers, just precision, focus, and the quiet refusal to be underestimated. Number 6. Gottlieb and Elfriede Fischer. Gottlieb and Elfriede Fischer were billed as the world's tallest married couple, and for once, the title wasn't exaggerated. Gottlieb stood 7 feet 2, Elfriede 6 feet 10. They met in London while performing in the same revue. He was from Austria, she from Germany. They married in 1933 and moved to the United States in 1937, joining circus troupes like Hagenbeck Wallace, Cole Brothers, and Ringling Brothers. On stage, they wore Western outfits, boots, hats, and smiles, and went by Mr. and Mrs. Long for a time. Unlike many performers labeled as giants, their height wasn't from illness. They were simply tall, healthy, and used to being watched. After retiring in 1948, they opened a small Florida motor lodge, welcoming guests who once stared at them under circus lights. They lived quietly, made a home, and stayed together until Elfriede died in 1984. Gottlieb passed 4 years later. What remained was not just their size, but the life they built around it. Now, the next one will make you cry. Number 5. Priscilla Lawther. Priscilla was born in Puerto Rico in 1911 with hypertrichosis, a condition that covered her body with thick hair. She also had double rows of teeth, leading to cruel names like the Monkey Girl. After her father's death, she was taken to America and entered the circus world. There, she met Emmett Bejano, a performer with ichthyosis, a disorder that gave his skin a scaly texture. The two fell in love and married, becoming known as the world's strangest married couple. They toured for decades, performing side by side and earning respect rather than ridicule. Priscilla sometimes sang during their act, her voice soft but confident. They appeared on television and lived a quiet life off stage. She kept shaving every few days to manage her condition, but never hid it. Their marriage lasted nearly 60 years until Emmett's death in 1995. Priscilla lived on, proof that love and dignity can exist even where the world refuses to look kindly. Number 4. Captain Fred Walters. Fred looked like a soldier even long after the war. He was disciplined, careful, always in uniform. His life changed when an army doctor prescribed silver nitrate for a chronic illness. The treatment worked at first, but then his skin began to change, slowly turning blue. By 1891, the color had become permanent. The same medicine that helped him also poisoned him. He left Britain for America, joining the sideshow circuit under the name The Blue Man. Despite the stage lights and staring crowds, Fred remained composed, speaking little and keeping his posture straight. His condition, now known as argyria, weakened him over time. The silver settled in his organs and bones, making his skin darker and his health worse. He continued performing for over 30 years until the poison finally ended his life in 1923. Fred Walters never stopped being the soldier he once was, duty-bound, steady, and far more than the color of his skin. Number 3. The Serpent Girl. They called her Serpentina, a name wrapped in myth, but the truth behind her act was real. Her birth name may have been Irene Farrell. Her body was incredibly flexible, able to bend and fold in ways that startled and confused even doctors. She didn't walk to the stage. Some said she had to be carried. Once on display, her spine twisted backward until she could nearly touch her head to her lower back. Her limbs coiled and curled without visible pain. She first appeared in Oakland's Globe Cafe, then moved to the Marine Hippodrome where she performed under the name C. Tiny. By the 1940s, Ripley's snapped photos of her contorted body, often edited or staged, making her real condition even more mysterious. Whether she was born with extreme hypermobility or suffered from a rare condition was never confirmed. She left no interviews, no direct quotes, just photographs of a body that bent in ways people still don't fully understand. Number 2. 8-footed horse. In the 1940s, a horse with 8 legs was exhibited in a traveling sideshow. It wasn't a prop. It was a living animal born with 2 extra limbs that dangled from its shoulders, useless but real. The image, now held by the Library of Congress, has no backstory, no name, no origin. That was common. These acts weren't about detail, they were about visual shock. Audiences didn't ask for proof. They paid, stared, and walked away. The horse didn't do tricks, it just existed differently. In that era, animals with extra legs, multiple heads, or no tails were shown like oddities. No explanation offered, none required. Once the ticket money stopped, most were either sold off or vanished from the record. There are no medical records, no follow-ups, just the photo, a display sign, and the strange truth that for a while, this 8-footed horse was worth more as an exhibit than as an animal. When curiosity ran out, so did the trail. Let's end this with Number 1. Minnie Woolsey. Minnie Woolsey was born in Georgia in the late 1800s with a rare condition called Seckle syndrome. She was very small, had bird-like features, and wore thick glasses for poor vision. Early in life, she was institutionalized, passed over, and ignored. Then the circus found her. They named her Cuckoo the Bird Girl and dressed her in feathers. She performed in silence, dancing awkwardly in her costume while crowds stared. Her condition affected her growth and facial structure, but not her mind. She was described as quiet, gentle, and aware. In 1932, she appeared in the cult film Freaks, one of the few times she was captured without costume or makeup. After that, she faded from public record. Some reports say she continued performing. Others say she disappeared. There are no clear answers about when or how she died. What's left is a handful of images and the fact that Minnie existed, stripped of choice, sold as difference, and never asked what she wanted. If you've enjoyed watching this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for hanging with us, and we'll catch you soon in the next one.